Okay. Oh wait, Jenny, are you speaking over there? Am I not hearing you guys? Let me see. All right, I might have to do something real quick to fix that. Hey everyone.
Empire back.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I hear you now. Yep, I'm good. Hey Jenny.
Hello.
Oh wait, we got you twice. All right, speak again, Dan.
Mic check.
I don't know why I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you double for some reason.
Try turning down the music from the
computer. Yeah, the restream.
I mean, not the music, the audio on the
Yeah, that's what it is.
How about now, Dan?
Check.
Let me make sure I got you muted over here. Yep. Mute.
Check.
Yes, now we're good.
It may have been on my end. I don't know. The Rodecaster, you know, so many knobs, so many levers.
I feel you. I feel you, man. I got mine. I don't know how many months ago it was, but yeah, like June, I think, or something like that, and still trying to figure out all the deets on it. But man, I am really excited to have you in the space today. Thanks for everybody that's already popping in. I'm going to ask everyone if you guys could please comment below, repost the space, like it. Let's send DMs to your friends. Let's make sure we get more people in the room. I was going to throw up our theme song, which actually Dan created for the space. So I'm going to play that while we get the room filled up, and then we'll get going. All right?
You're now in the place to be. It's the Web3 Artist Spotlight. Let's go. Web3 Artist Spotlight. Yeah, poppin', get to talking on the spotlight. Web3 Artist Spotlight. We going live, deep dive on a hot mic. Every single show we go deeper than the surface. Learn about the artists, their vision and their purpose. From all different backgrounds, embrace the diversity. Talk about the process and the work that makes it worth it. Yo, join the conversation, it's that time of the day. Where we delve into minds, find their creative ways. Web3 Artist Spotlight, illuminate the stage. From the canvas to the chain, from their minds to the page. We learn about the artists from the stories that they breathe. From the unknown to the frame, all grown from a seed. NFTs change the game, artistry's free. On the blockchain canvas, authenticity's key. Different genres, different styles, yeah, it's all in the mix. A background so diverse, join the clip and get your fix. You on game, revealing tips and tricks. Come join us in the spotlight, you're on the guest list. Every week we learn and listen when creatives make the call. Share about life and artwork, we talk about it all. Hosted by Giancarlo and Jenny, stars to unknowns. Join into the spotlight where the artists truly show. Web3 Artist Spotlight. We get it live and get to talking on the spotlight. Web3 Artist Spotlight. We going live, deep dive on a hot mic. Every single show we go deeper than the surface. Learn about the artists, their vision and their purpose. From all different backgrounds, embrace the diversity. Talk about the process and the work that makes it worth it.
Love that track. All right. I see more people in the room. Thanks everyone for being here. I see Dreamer, Deacon, Curtis. Hey, how you doing, brother? Deba. Thanks everyone for joining. I'd appreciate if everyone that's in the room could repost the space, comment below, like, just so we can get more people in here. The way I usually like to do this is, and actually I'll stop sharing this over here, is basically, I start with like an introduction for the space for anybody that might be a new listener, just kind of explaining a little bit of the background behind these particular spaces. I'll pass it over to Jenny to introduce our guest. We'll then go into kind of interview style questions. And then we love it to open it up to other people that are in the audience to just come up, vibe with us. If you have questions for Dan or us, you can definitely come up and ask them. If you're not able to come up for whatever reason, you could also throw them down in the comments section. So we could also go through that and ask the questions for you. All right. So with that said, I was going to mention, this is a space I started, it's been almost a year, which is crazy to think about that. But it's really to shine a spotlight on talented artists who are leveraging Web3 technology to sell art, to connect with people in new and innovative ways. We do really in-depth interviews because we want to learn more about the artists behind the artwork, uncover more about their processes, their inspirations and passions. And we felt like all the other spaces that were out there, at least I did, we're just giving people like a very short period of time to talk about themselves and then have to show whatever they were doing. So I wanted to really go deeper here and be able to truly get to know more about the people, right? And make really genuine connections, right? So hopefully through these spaces, we can do that. We can inspire also people who maybe have a creative passion to start their own journeys and really celebrate how, art and creativity, kind of unites us all, right? It's this universal language. It's a very inclusive space. So it welcomes artists of all nationalities, backgrounds, artistic styles. We invite, seasoned professionals, maybe with like tens of thousands of followers, sometimes in some cases, somebody that's just maybe starting out, emerging talents. But we really want to bring a diverse range of voices from the Web3 community and really dive deep into, this whole blockchain space and how it's revolutionizing the industries, right? So that's what the space is all about. I'm going to turn it over to Jenny to introduce our guest for today.
Thank you. Dan the Lost Boy is a multi-talented creator. He is a musician, content creator, podcaster, and streetwear brand owner. Dan believes in helping others find their own voice and believes in growth mindset and celebrating our individuality and expressing ourselves to the fullest. He is the voice of our intro song, a friend and community builder. And with that, Giancarlo and I welcome Dan the Lost Boy to the stage.
Oh my God. Well, thank you so much for having me. That was quite the intro. I feel like a celebrity of sorts. I feel like a bigger deal than maybe I am, but I really appreciate the intro, Giancarlo and Jennifer. I really do. Thanks.
It's our pleasure, man. And today you are our celebrity, our spotlight. I'm really stoked to have you in this space. You're one of those people I've connected with here in Web3 that I've just become like much closer with. We've been in a lot of spaces together. And I've just been really excited because although we've had a lot of conversations, we even got to meet in real life at VCon. I still feel like there's probably a lot more to unpack and to really learn about your journey, about your story. And there's just so much stuff you've done too. So I'm really excited about this space. We usually kick it off with like, maybe you can take, 5 minutes, Dan, tell us a little bit more about yourself, who you are, your story, and how you eventually came into the Web3 space.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate the chance to do so. So I've been an artist for the last 15, maybe even going on 20 years, which is something I don't rather like to think about, even though it's a lot of experience, puts an age to me. But been doing music as a hobby for quite some time. Was always a bit of a troublesome child. So I had some issues with high school, things like that. Eventually made it through, got some blue collar jobs, and was always just rapping, doing music, playing guitar and things on the side, until eventually about, I'd say 5 years ago, I started getting a little bit more serious about the idea of trying to create a business out of music instead of just like everyone else, really just going through the motions, hoping to get enough streams, all of those things to kind of pay the bills or put enough food on the table to exit a regular job. And it's not easy. It's really difficult to traverse that kind of ground of the new territory of how do I actually turn this into a business and monetize when it's always been the exact opposite in my life, just kind of a side fill. Always got a lot of great feedback on my art, and just wanted to pursue it more out of honor for that. So started looking around, banging around on the internet. How can I, look for you trying to get, eventually stumbled upon a business partner, Matt Keever, that kind of turned me on to NFTs and the whole digital asset, commodifying artwork on chain to hopefully not only give somebody a representation of that artwork that's everlasting, a digital ownership and footprint, but also potentially some royalties in perpetuity for the artist, which is something that I was really keen on and spoke to me because, like I said, I'd always been looking for a way to kind of get outside of the box of the norm of how a musician, puts food on the table, whether that's shows or just streams. And NFTs kind of spoke to me in a special way. This was early 2021, and by mid 2021, I'd left my job and kind of started scaling up a music business around NFTs, and the focus was the utility. Anybody can just put together some visual artwork, and I'm no visual artist, so I commissioned somebody to do that, and my main sell was my custom song work. So, a few years into, I'd say, taking music as a business a little bit more serious, I kind of stumbled into a skill set that was writing songs that weren't just about my particular likes and views and interests, but about other people's businesses, their brands, what they represented, and putting that into something that was catchy, not corny, that felt authentic to the individuals, but also myself as an artist. So I wasn't selling my soul just to make a song for somebody else. And that's really how, again, we kind of put this idea together of not just selling my music on chain, because I've done a little bit of that here and there as far as some of my personal singles, but really taking custom audio IP and trying to turn that into a NFT project and also a bit of a business that's going to sustain me as an artist. And the hope was eventually some other artists as well, put some other talent on the roster and show them these ropes and what can be done with this technology as well. So that's kind of where I am now, still running with that custom song business. I've gotten a little bit creative and playful with some of the rules that I had set or some of the lines early on, just to, work with some of the fluctuations in market, in customer type and avatar. And, it's been, I would say, more fruitful than it could have ever been of just putting my music on Spotify and, just hoping and praying that I would, land some big gig. It actually generated some revenue. It also gave other creators an asset to put into their toolbox that then they could use moving forward without having to worry about DMCAs or, any strikes on their YouTube and things like that. And I felt like that crossover felt good to me as an artist, where, again, I was true to myself. I was able to monetize and make an honest living off of it, but also give the customer something I felt was of high value for what I felt, again, was a good price and a great process, really stress-free. I hope Giancarlo can attest. But that's kind of what led me here. Always a hobby artist, and then 5 years ago deciding, let's take this a little more serious and get a little creative to do so.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thanks. And thanks for sharing that. And I got to say, I mean, as somebody that's a customer of your service, I thought it was a great process, and I thought it was really cool because you really took a lot of the time to really understand more about what the space was about, do your research on it, and then really tailor the song and the message around that. And I've seen you do it. I've seen some great friggin' songs you do with the Saturday morning cartoons, space that with Gentle Tornado, and even on the topic of DMCA, I think that's a huge thing. And because accounts even like his, right, got suspended. Gentle Tornadoes got suspended because of copyrights, because of some of the videos he had playing before. And I know we've had other guests like Sabet, who I'm actually going to be releasing his episode in our in the podcast for this next week. But we actually talked a little bit about that too, and he actually even launched some songs that were copyright free, so that way people wouldn't have to worry if they had that playing in the background in their music, or they wanted to add that to their visuals and things like that. So I think it's really cool. It's cool how you kind of enter the space and use it as a way to still be creative, but also kind of and stay true to yourself and kind of and tap into the market that way. So I think that's pretty cool. One thing that I really wanted to ask you about as well was your name, the Dan the Lost Boy, right? And that, which is also now part of branding. I see on the hat and everything with the clothing. Why the name Dan the Lost Boy? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I sometimes give this really surface level answer just to be cool, but the real reason is because it's inspired loosely from Peter Pan, more the movie with the Lost Boys of Neverland. If you never think about age, you don't have to get old. It's just a number. Think good thoughts and you can fly. There's a lot of like little principles and values in that movie that are kind of like really not face value. You kind of got to look a little bit deeper, and they're more applicable to life than you would, again, assume at face value. And after watching that movie, obviously as a kid and a few times as a younger adult, I really caught some inspiration from that. And a lot of my life has felt like being lost and just not really knowing the right groove. And I kind of described that earlier, even with my path, a lot of jobs, bumping around, trying to find things. Even now with this business, it's interesting. You never know what the next turn holds. And I think that's a big part of the name. Like you're always on a search for the best version of yourself. And I really understood that and kind of recognized that's never going to go away. Even when you think you found the perfect thing, maybe a career path, a partner, whatever it is, things are always subject to change, for better or for worse. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it's great. And it's the perfect opportunity. But again, I was cognizant of that and wanted to kind of build not only a personal brand around that ideal, but also something larger. Because I knew, especially in this day and age, there's a lot of people that can connect with that feeling of being lost, not knowing maybe what their purpose is, what their calling in life is, and what their addition to the world is. And that's a tough feeling to struggle with. And I think sometimes the best way to deal with or cope with tough emotions and situations is to really embrace them. So that's what I kind of chose to do. I am Dan the Lost Boy. I'm always searching for the best version of myself, and I may never find it, and that's perfectly okay. But at least with the idea of waking up every day trying to find that person, you're set up for success, I personally think.
Yeah, man, I freaking love that. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm so drawn to you, Dan, because it's that strive to just be better, right? And I think in some ways, yeah, like we all have, there's always stuff that we're trying to figure out, in our lives. Like, am I really doing I struggle with that now too. Like I'm almost 40, and like, I just recently started tapping more into like my artistic side and versus like my, corporate job doing like technology stuff. And I still wonder, I'm like, do I still continue on this path, or should I try to like, go down into this artistic realm and Web3 and, kind of see where that path leads me, And I think a lot of us are always trying to like discover and figure out like, what are we supposed to do on this earth? And, and I think the beauty of it too is, it's if you could find a way to like enjoy the process, while you're even trying to find your way, then I feel like you've made it, because even if you never, I don't know, you may find things along the way, right? And kind of enjoy that journey. And I love that other point you made earlier about, age is just a number, because I definitely feel like that way too. I still feel like my mindset's still like when I was a kid, and especially when I'm around my little ones, man, it's like I'm back there again. I'm like a, kid, teenager wanting to play and do stuff, so I totally, can vibe with that, that whole like age is just a number.
Dude, absolutely. And I honestly, like I say, I don't mean to like assume for everyone, but I think most human beings will encounter some sort of like feeling or section of their life that, that feeling of lost is looming. Some more consistently, like myself, and that could be for better or for worse, might be a good thing or a bad thing. But I'm glad some others can really connect with that, because each person's life is their own. There's no handbook or playbook to life. And if there was, it wouldn't be very interesting anyway. So, some days it's a negative connotation I think people could apply to it depending on how they feel that day, and other days being lost, very positive.
For sure. So I know you mentioned earlier, like, some of the music that, especially like the stuff you're doing in Web3, is basically like custom tailored, to the project or the group or whatever it is that you're making the art for. But I know you've also made, some songs that were more, for yourself. And I was curious, like about, if you could talk to us a little bit more about like what inspires you to like create and write, the music that you create, and what do you think has like influenced the style that you have, what have been some of the inspirations behind that?
for sure. I think like any person or artist, a lot of just my life, I'm sure, has reflected as inspiration. But inspiration for writing, I think, is just experience. Like I've always had this feeling like I have something to say, and what that is can differ from song to song, but that feeling tends to linger, and I can't really like shake it, and it's a little bit uh interfering, I guess, or distracting to the rest of my life if I can't kind of shake it. So the only way to do that is to get it out most times, and to put something on paper. And I think I've ranged as far as my maybe style of music. Like any artist does, a little more immature early on, just especially with rap. You're talking about subject matter that it maybe isn't applicable to your life, or not as applicable as it should be, to be speaking about it the way you are, and eventually started to transition towards more what I hope to be more motivational music, even if it's a little bit more secondary as far as the priority of the song. There's something woven in there that's a little bit positive or inspirational. One of my more recent songs, Kilimanjaro, just the inference that, like, life is like a mountain. You're always kind of climbing. It's going to be difficult, and you just gotta kind of keep going up, and nothing can really stop you, is really the inspiration for the song. And I hope to apply that to a bunch of my music. But I'm sure music I've consumed, my family, friends, just experiences through life is really what inspires things. And when it comes to the custom songs, the project, the people, the amazing things going on in the space, the customers that come to me that are, and I'll call a spade to both the hosts here, people that are smart enough to recognize, what custom audio can do. They come my way, and they're usually doing something awesome, just like this show. And it's my, honor to be able to get inspired by that, to then put that into a product that they get some value from. So that's, I guess, overall what kind of inspires Dan the Lost Boy, is just living, man. Just living.
Love it. Jenny, you want to go to your question?
Yeah, you own a clothing brand called Lost Boys, and I read the mission of the brand is to have clothing which has no identity until the person wearing it gives it one. And it really made me think about fashion. Do you see streetwear as a universal starting point, a blank canvas, so to speak?
For identity, for sure. I think, we express ourselves in so many different ways. And I think one of the first and foremost ways of expression, whether people like to admit it or not, is your appearance. When you walk into a room, again, people can say they don't judge, but it's our human nature to scan and find new objects and things moving in a room, and to, perceive them. What is this? Is this a threat? And then obviously in more modern times, how does this person look? What is their vibe? Their maybe their fashion statement. And I think that's one of those things you can do without talking to somebody, without knowing them, is project maybe what you want your identity or part of your personality, I guess, to be through fashion. So that's always something that spoke to me. And again, when I go back to my kind of overall mission of that feeling of lost, and like wanting to connect to other people that are feeling that same thing, I felt like clothing was another natural, connection point, another touch point with people, because music, fashion, it's such a subculture together, and just simply allowing basic garments to kind of, again, take on other people's identity, the wearer's identity, was something that kind of spoke to me, and spoke to others. And it's nothing massive, it's still like a lot of entrepreneurial enterprises. It's like a closet deal, but we really enjoy like packaging these items, putting them together. And I see people in my local area. I'm from Canada, London, Ontario, and I see people in my local area, and I get sent photos of people much further than that. And that's one great thing, again, that there's a level of connection through the fashion brand. And again, allowing people to give these garments a level of identity they might not have already.
That's awesome. And I can only imagine what that feels like, seeing your brand around locally. That's got to be a dope feeling.
Oh, it's great. Honestly, it's the same feeling I get, and I'm sure any artist gets, from somebody consuming your work, you know, whether it's somebody being a fan of your song or even just listening to it, giving it a few plays. It's a great feeling. And especially observing it naturally, like organically, is one of the greatest feelings when it's not like you with all your friends and you're like, I'm taking the aux chord and I'm going to, you know, play everybody my song. It's almost like a gun to your head situation. Whereas this is a lot more seeing people out in the wild, almost just happening to be wearing one of your hats or a sweater. And again, I said when I came in here, I feel like a celebrity. I'm definitely not one. But again, that's another feeling of being one where you're like, man, that's so cool just to see people not only rocking it, but connecting with, I'm sure, the deeper ethos. And that's why they may be purchased.
That's awesome. So, Dan, I know you're also, a big fan of Stoicism, right? And you enjoy reading and sharing insights from the Daily Stoic on whether it's on Spaces or posts you put on X. Can you tell us a little bit more about like how you got into Stoicism and maybe the impact that it's had on your life?
For sure. I think generally just like trying to find peace was like an overall goal for a while. And I think meditation was like a starting point for that. Reading in general, because I think in my older years, I forgot about reading, which sounds crazy. But, you know, after you grow out of the school years, you forget that it even exists because you're so used to being forced to doing it and having a distaste. It's like vegetables, you know, as an adult, you remember, oh yeah, those things are real. So I think through just finding peaceful time to read in the morning, meditation, I started to find myself naturally, maybe even online with an algorithm, stumbling into more stoicism and getting exposed little by little to that type of content online. And then like hard copies, like contextually at home, having these books and starting to dive into them and really just connecting with a lot of, I mean, stoicism is based on like old philosophers and like these ideals that are clearly tried and true because they're from like hundreds of centuries ago and they're still so applicable today. And a lot of it's just about, you know, the control we have over things or the lack of in life, but we always have control of ourselves and the way that we perceive things and the way that we move through space and time. And I think stoicism is a really good reminder of those things. Nobody's going to be Marcus Aurelius and live, you know, the perfect life and be the spitting image of this stuff. But I think it gives you a good reminder and a starting point of, you know, a lot of stuff just is out of my control, and I only thing I can control is myself. And tapping in with that Daily Stoicism book every morning has been invaluable for me for just those reminders. And sharing that with other people has been a little bit of a blessing. You know, people really connect with it, and I think for good reason. Like I say, old lessons that stick and really stand the test of time.
Absolutely. I think Giancarlo and I are also both fans of Stoicism. And I think in a world where we're sort of like just inundated with so much stuff, like Stoicism is such a grounding point to go back to. Yeah. I wanted to mention, I wanted to ask you, you host spaces where you encourage growth and self-expression. Can you share a memorable or impactful moment where someone opened up to you?
Oh, there's so many. And I, you know, honestly, that sounds a little bit full of myself, but it's more the great people that I have come through a lot of the spaces I've been, you know, grateful enough to hold. Some by myself. I used to do a daily show called DGen Friends Media for a while. I do like a morning show, talk about NFT news, bumped into a lot of great people there. And then doing some spaces with like GT and Danny Phantom and others that are a little bit more vulnerability based and you know, mental health awareness, things like that. And those are the rooms obviously that you get a little bit more of that vulnerability. And without like naming names, we've just had some people come through, I think early on in some of these spaces, very vulnerable, which is a good thing, but fragile and going through a really tough time. And obviously, again, I can relate. I have a lot of empathy for that. I've had some of those times in my life myself. And obviously recognizing the courage of these people to come through a public space to speak publicly about what's going on in their lives, whether it's, you know, really bad or, you know, not so bad, doesn't really matter because that's all, you know, just perspective. everybody has their own stuff going on. And seeing their growth like over an arc, like over a period of time, and not really purposely tracking it, but one day noticing maybe 2 months later, this person's like really confident and feeling good, and they've maybe adopted some great habits that were potentially recommendations from not myself, but other people in the space. And I think that's really just great to see organically happen. People starting to strengthen, gain confidence, start to find a little bit of a community, even if it is just digitally. You know, today it's tough to find connection anywhere. So if you can find it online, I mean, take it. And I think Spaces is a great way to do that. So again, I don't want to get too specific, but just seeing certain individuals that have came early on really struggling and seemingly getting stronger, and the struggles haven't dissipated, but they're dealing with them a lot better. And that's just inspiring no matter who you are or what you do, because again, we all go through it. So yeah, it's a pleasure, just like I'm sure for you guys, to interview and learn people's stories. It is on just like a personal level, just to chat with people, you know, get some common ground and see where it unfolds.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think that's one of the things like I actually love about these spaces, is because I really get to like have these like deep, meaningful conversations, really get to know people better. And yeah, it's like, you know, just kind of like one by one, you know, brick by brick, we start building out like more community, connecting with other people. And even in some cases, you know, we've had people like, you know, we've helped make like serendipitous connections between like multiple artists and people like that, just from everyone being in the space together, right? And just kind of seeing these like similarities, or like, oh, you guys should collab together or something like that. So no, that's awesome, man. And yeah, I've been in some of those spaces too, you know, like the Growing in Public and even the Saturday morning ones. And it's cool to see like those trends and that stuff over time. Like you see how people are like growing and evolving and just working through tough shit, you know, which is really awesome. So you hinted a little bit at it in the answer to Jenny, right? That you used to host a podcast, which then became kind of a space with, you know, the DGen friends, where you had co-hosts, you know, Matt McKeever, Adam Martin, and you guys would talk about what's going on in crypto and NFT space. You give your own like hot takes and insights. And so, you know, so you're known for trying to, you know, kind of like thinking about like, okay, what's going on in the space and everything like that. There's been a lot of news lately with, you know, with Web3, and I think some articles and things coming out now, you know, I think which probably are maybe predicting maybe a bottom or something soon. But I'd love to know what's your, you know, your current take right now on the Web3 space, and where do you see us going over the next like few years?
That's a great question. And I think like currently, I wouldn't say my outlook is pessimistic. I think it's more realistic. And I think there's going to be some more growing pains. And I don't even mean just like market set, like what the sub of NFTs within crypto. I think it's got quite a bit of growing to do. There's some shining North stars and some really, really good examples of what NFTs can do, what they can be, how they can contribute. But on the other hand, and again, just being more realistic, and trust me, people, I've been in this stuff since 2021, going hard. I've spent a lot of money on mints. I've had a lot of fun, and I've had
a lot of rug
pain,
pulls.
Oh yeah, I'm not trying to be like some OG veteran. I'm not like that tried and true. I didn't buy Bitcoin at like $2, but I've been around the block to know that there's a lot of printing going on, and I don't mean money. I just mean like tokens and projects and things being delivered or shipped that really don't have much going on other than a little bit of a hype, maybe some artwork. And that's not to take away from the artists that contributed. There's always something to that. But I just think there's a little bit of this cyclical nature in the space right now of people just always wanting the next shiny thing. And I think that's human nature. That's never going to change. You know, I just bought some new running shoes the other day, the new shiny thing. But with this, I think the definition of shiny needs to change. Instead of just what's got the most hype behind it, who's got the biggest buzz, words or people, influencers behind, or, you know, committed to the project, instead of who's really doing something cool, you know, like who's really using the technology, pushing the needle forward, or understands business already, like a Luca Netz, and is applying some of those past experiences and weaving those two worlds together with a Web 2 and a Web 3 business mindset. I think that's what Shiny needs to become. Whereas right now, it's just whatever anybody, a majority is talking about. So if, you know, Friend.tech's trending, everybody runs towards Friend.tech. And then when Friend.tech kind of dries up, something else gets a little shinier over across the desert, everybody floods and runs over there. And again, I understand that that's part of the nature of the game. That's the way markets work. But I think there's still a lot of that to get rid of, a lot of that like antsy energy people need to get rid of, and they'll start making a lot more sound decisions with their cryptocurrency. Because just like most degens, I can spend crypto way faster than I could ever spend fiat, you know? Buying groceries compared to buying NFTs, wow. I'd have groceries for a long time if I spent fiat like I do crypto.
I feel you on that one, man. Yeah. I think it's a lot easier when stuff's like, you know, 0.1 or whatever, you know, ETH instead of like, you know, $300 at the grocery store, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, definitely relate. And I agree with that point too about like the shiny thing. You know, a lot of this, the culture in the space has been like this, you know, FOMO and chasing the next hype train. And, you know, just looking back, even this, you know, past like 6 months, it was like, oh, you know, Pepe is mooning. Everybody jump on Pepe. Oh, it's Turbo now. And oh, wait, Nakamigos. And, you know, it's like all people just like chasing the next hype thing, you know, but it's like, who's actually really creating something like sustainable, really using the technology in a good way, you know, in a way that like really makes full use of it. Right. So I feel you on that for sure.
Yeah, and just one little sentiment there is like everybody's loyal to a project until it's not like making them money. And that's, again, another problem is everybody's a diehard. Like, I'm sure, and I wouldn't name names even if I had a thick stack of paper with names on them to give. But there was probably a lot of people very vocal about all of those things you meant, Pepe, Turbo, that were like, this is the thing. And you know, very convinced themselves. And there's part of this like Stockholm where you like get around enough people that are all saying the same thing. Everybody believes it, but I just don't see much accountability, even personally, from degens about like when they do move on to the next thing. You know, like you might only have 2 followers, but man, if somebody makes any move or even contemplates making a move off of what you were saying publicly, I don't know, it's just a weird look, and people are so comfortable with that in this space of just like, again, like it's almost, if you thought about doing that with people, it wouldn't take long before everybody hated your guts about like, hey man, you can't just jump from friend group to friend group to friend group, and when it stops giving you any, you know, utility, which is a great word from the space, you just bail altogether and you're on to the next one. Visibly can be seen by all of the ones that you just left. But the last thing I wanted to say on that question was, you know, I have a lot of, again, what people might label like more pessimistic takes about the space. I consider them just more realistic right now. But I think there's something really special with not only cryptocurrency, but digital ownership, with NFTs, and what that looks like in the broad scale. I'm not quite sure yet. And like how it's going to really be publicly adopted by everyone, the way, say, a smartphone has been, or, you know, a PayPal service or something like that. I just don't see it yet, but I do have full confidence that it is the future and that there's a lot of great things to be built on it, with it, all of those things. So don't get me wrong. I have full like belief and commitment. I just think some of that stuff takes a while, and I don't even think it's the technology. I think it's there waiting. It's about like the social side of people rewarding the right things so that people are more like actually, you know, geared to doing those things more and actually building out proper infrastructure and technology. So I just wanted to get it straight for anybody that's listening. That's like, this guy doesn't sound like he's into NFTs or crypto at all.
This guy's all fun.
I am. Yeah, I'm not the fun. They used to call me and Adam and Matt some days, depending on the day, the FUD King. And we can all be the FUD King every once in a while.
That's great. I mean, I resonate so much with what you said. And I don't think it's fun, and I don't see it as pessimism either. And I think that unless we actually start to think about it in the sound way that you just expressed it, I don't actually think that the tech is going to go mainstream in the time frame that we would want it to go mainstream, because the culture has to appeal en masse, and that won't happen if people don't trust us. And I think that you just hit on some like really, really great points that I completely agree with. I did want to ask you more of like a, I guess, a Web 2 question, but do you have any influences or people that you admire in fashion? And if so, who are they?
That's a good question. And I think I have quite a few answers. Some of them are kind of like, I don't want to say the usuals, but for maybe some of this generation are top of mind or top of list. And I think because of my affinity for streetwear, for hype beast clothing, you know, like really nice sneakers, just overpriced clothing, let's just call it what it is. But usually for the reasons of the design, they speak to me, and somehow that justifies some of these crazy prices. But a Virgil Abloh from like Off-White, I think is really, you know, changed the game. And not only just because of the work that he's done in fashion, but some of the concepts around it. He did this famous interview where he talked about, you know, a can and the environment that it's in. So that's even like talking about building the environments for your products, not just, you know, the products themselves and the designs of them, which he was obviously a master of, but broadening that scope. And what if I change the, you know, the setting and the element that I'm placing the product in, and how does that change the perception of the actual product? And, you know, some great examples, if I just put a can in like a dusty old mechanic shop, you wouldn't even notice it. It's just this, you know, cool architectural looking can that's hidden. But if I put it in this clean room that's directing all of the focus and the light towards that can, it's now art. And I think some of those concepts are really great. You know, Lorenzo over at Essentials, Fear of God, I think is great as well. And again, there's so many within the space, Sean Witherspoon, that are deep in the sneaker and fashion game that I take some influence from. But definitely, and maybe not as colorful and as out there, but I've always been a big fan of Machine Gun Kelly. I've been told a time or two that I look like him, and maybe that's strengthened that, you know, like affinity, like, oh, cool, like maybe I could dress like that too and pop off the same way. I don't know if I'll be wearing capes or like Dracula outfits anytime soon, but I think when he's a little bit more subdued, maybe in some past years, and MGK is an influence as well. I think he's got some good style. Again, maybe a little less nail polish for me personally. I mean, that's, again, just me personally, my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. He's such a vibe. Yeah, he's just like, I don't know, like him and his girlfriend, every time I see them on like social media, I'm just like, oh, they're so edgy and so cool and so fashionable. And yeah, I agree with Virgil. And it's interesting you said that, because when I went onto your website and I was looking at the minimalism that you sort of have, like obviously there's the logo, but the colors that you picked, I actually was thinking about Virgil and Kanye a bit as well. So I definitely picked up on that stylistically.
I appreciate that a lot. And honestly, I feel faulted personally for not mentioning Kanye, because again, I sometimes hate myself for it because of the price tag, a lot of the stuff. But Yeezy, you know, controversy aside about the designer, but the designs, they're just so futuristic. And I've always been very future oriented. Like I'm sure a lot of people in the Web3 space are, you know, Marty McFly when I was younger, because again, I don't want to completely age myself like Giancarlo, but you know, I was big big coming up in that era.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. And that always spoke to me, the hoverboards. What our past perception of what the future would have been like about now was crazy. But I think Yeezy particularly just put some of those like styles in actual function and like current use, where you're like, man, this looks like something out of a movie, dude. And again, justifies the price. That's another debate, but definitely Kanye. And I appreciate that sentiment.
Probably feel like more of a celebrity now, right?
Oh, it's overwhelming.
It's
like
overwhelming,
you guys better check. You guys better check me for the weekend. I'm probably going to get myself into some trouble going to restaurants or something, waving people around. Be like, did you not see me on Web3 Artist Spotlight? Like, I'm a big deal. Exactly. Do you not know who I am? Dan the Lost Boy. Those people. Yeah, you better get lost, boy.
Love it, man. Oh man, that's good. That's good. So I was checking out some of your older videos on YouTube, and you got some going, a few years back where you would do Friday freestyles. And I was gonna throw one of them up here on the live stream, but I was curious, how your freestyle game is nowadays. And I'm gonna play one of these.
Technique be too nice. Off the dome is too nice. I got the technically two slices of bread. I put it to your head. I comment and pull back here, land. That's all you wanna feel. Yeah, I got the curb appeal. I got the whip appeal. Cause when I peel, I got banana peels coming out the bottom of the fucking Draco. Yeah, you know how it is. I don't really play no. Yeah, I'm on these freestyle Fridays. I'm too wild, you can't keep me. I'm too sideways. Yeah, I'm rolling down the block. Yeah, I'm trying to fit a cop. Man, I'm really about to drop all this pop on that. Yeah, you know how I pop on that.
So I thought those were pretty dope, man. I checked out a few of those, and I was
Major
curious.
throwback.
Major throwback, huh? So I was curious.
I always love those.
I was curious if you still do some freestyling from time to time, and maybe if you could do some freestyle for us right now. Put you on the spot.
Oh man, I don't often, but I'm always willing to give the old college try because I've never been one to shy away from failing publicly. But it's not so, even when I was doing those freestyle Fridays, to be honest with you, that's what brought them on. A recommendation from a friend was like, dude, the only way to sharpen the axe is just by like doing it. So I was like, man, I'm just gonna like do whatever I can. And it wasn't always great in my personal opinion. Sometimes they were great, sometimes they were mid, and you just call it how you see it and keep moving. But yeah, I don't know. You want some acapella vibes? I did see Pat on here, and that's tough to follow, man. That guy's strumming the geese.
He's awesome.
He's a great guy. Somebody I've connected with.
Well, if you got a beat, we can play a track, and then you can spit some bars for us, man.
Let's see. I might have something kicking around on the old desktop here. Let's see if we can fire something up. Oh yeah. It might give me that weird little echo though. That's the only thing I'm worried about. Yeah, let's see what we can do. Bear with me, folks.
All good. And what I was gonna say is, if people want to start requesting to come up, feel free to do so. I see some new faces in the room. Thank you all for joining. I would appreciate if you guys could also repost the space, comment below, like it, so we can get more people in the room. And yeah, feel free to request if you want to come up. Let us know how you're doing. Ask a question. I'm seeing Nefemi. Oh man, we could have got him up here to play one of his beats.
I literally, you mind. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. He just shared something recently that was pretty dope, where he was putting some beats to like some of his story and everything, and it was really cool.
I think I found one.
You got it? All right.
I literally just pulled the old like wild card beat up, like no idea whose this is. We're just gonna absolutely DMCA blast this thing. I'm just kidding. That's not how that works, especially if it's for free use only, DJ Dan. But yeah, we'll see what happens here. I make no promises, folks. I really don't. I wish you would have given me a heads up, Giancarlo. I would have done the modern version of what they call a freestyle. And if you could see me, folks, I'm doing air quotations. It would have been cool. I would have written something, but whatever. Giancarlo didn't give me the heads up. Is there a weird echo?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. See, I wondered about that. I was a bit, through Restream or something. Maybe I can send you the link to it and you can play.
Yeah, that should work. Like if you play the audio, Giancarlo.
Yeah. Then we'll be good.
Yeah. I think it's just because it's picking up my like Restream twice or something.
Where are you gonna send it? Through
I'll send you a Twitter DM.
A DM. All right, I'll look it up.
should. I think it should be there. It should work.
BeatStars, let's go.
A classic tag. BeatStars.com. On the Web3 Artist Spotlight. John Carlo played the beat. Man, I got hype. Man, I need that. I need that. I need that. I need who got light. Cause I'm about to spark a flame. Yeah, you know how it is. I'm about to spark a flame. Get it right off the top. Get the business. Get this every top. I'm talking get this. I don't know what I'll be saying on the microphone. Every time I get in spaces, man, I'm in my zone. Spitting, talking NFTs with my homies in the zone. DJs every day, man, that's all we ever know. Yeah, we don't play. Put a couple eats on the table. Let it trade. Levitate. I don't know, dude. Freestyling's fun because you can say what you want. It's a mood. Oh, dude. Still rhyming with the DJ Dan in the mix. I don't know, Giancarlo. I might be the best for getting today, buddy.
That's all good, man. That was dope.
Definitely fun. That's the one thing. If we were all hanging out IRL, it makes it even better because you can just have fun with all your friends and everybody gets to say some crazy wild. Usually, I'll be honest with you, especially if some vibations are had, some dumb shit. I'll be saying some crazy dumb shit. Hopefully funny. But, you know, I appreciate the opportunity, man. Have some fun. I got to sharpen the axe a little bit more. Maybe a return of Freestyle Friday.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think you should do those. Post them on the X platform as well.
Man, you got that down. The X platform you made it sound like natural and everything. I'm just still
trying,
Twitter,
bro. I'm trying. It was feeling unnatural for many weeks. I'm now finally making the transition.
You got it down. I love it.
All right, Jen, you want to go to the next question?
Sure. So aside from the freestyling on YouTube, I've also enjoyed watching your cooked YouTube videos. Have you ever thought of collabing with other content creators?
I definitely have. And honestly, that's just creating content is something I've been doing a lot less of. And I think it's honestly, and I hate to make excuses or blame something, but I got really obsessed with trying to, you know, make the custom music business work. And I kind of stopped doing what I felt was fun. I was just obsessed with, you know, trying to do what I was trying to do. And I think those things need to make a return. Just doing them solo, but also doing some collaborations because there's so many gifted people, not only within Web3, but a lot more broad than that, like Web2, just so many gifted content creators that I'd love to, you know, collab with. And I think I need to lean into more comedy and some of my, you know, humor because that's a lot of Cooked is based around, you know, like having fun while cooking some like bro style meals, munchies, if you will, at times. And I think some collabs are in order. So the question, great. And that's my answer, but I appreciate the question even more because it's a great reminder to actually, you know, take some action there and, you know, get back in the kitchen, literally and figuratively.
Love it. And I'm curious, man. So I'd love to know, what is Chef Dan the Lost Boy's best dish? What is your signature dish? Yeah.
That's a great question, though. I'm going to defer to saying the one that basically inspired the whole movement of Cooked, even though there was only 4 episodes and there, you know, I say only because there's could be more. But the first episode, the legendary Dan the Lost Boy Smash Burgers, bangers. You can look it up on YouTube. Super simple. You can crush it at home. But if you got some friends, maybe you're on a hot date and you're trying to impress, might not be the best thing for a hot date. It's definitely sloppy eatings, but at the same time,
not a first date, yeah.
Impressive nonetheless. Like maybe you just make it and like be like, well, let's go out for dinner. You just show off your skills and then go eat somewhere a little bit more clean and classy. But yeah, that's my go-to reco is the smash burger. And just for full context for anybody listening, I did a little cooking show called Cooked, very inspired by smoking and enjoying, a little drink while you put together your meal and having a nice little recipe to share with friends. And yeah, it's something I got to do some more of. So I appreciate the question.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. And I'm kind of a foodie myself. So when I saw that, I was like, ooh, fun. And I saw that recipe and I also saw a steak sandwich one. And I was like, yeah, man, this is the good eats. Now, I know you're Canadian and I've actually never been, believe it or not. I would love to. And I was wondering if you had any top Canadian foods that you think every American should try.
That's a good question. I mean, there's so many like knee-jerk answers that I just think are like what most Canadians would say, which I'm gonna try and not say because like poutine is kind of good, but it's like it's just fries, cheese, and gravy. So like realistically speaking, I mean, you could try that today. It might be worth it just for the whole cultural experience of trying it in Canada. But I think we can do better. I think it's something like going to like a sugar shack, what they would call it, like back where they make maple syrup. You go kind of like into the country, into the more rural areas, and there's a lot of places that do maple syrup processing, and you can actually get like a buffet breakfast there. You can go on like a horse carriage ride through the whole like forest where they're harvesting the sap. Then you can see them distill it and like cook it all down and do all that cool stuff, and then obviously taste some maple syrup and probably bring some home. I think that's a lot more of like a cool experience because you get some maple syrup candy, get a breakfast, plus you get to see kind of the we'll call it the back country of Canada, and where the world famous maple syrup comes from. I'm gonna stick to my roots on this one.
That's awesome. My husband's in the audience and I know he heard that. So I'm holding you to that, Carlos. So we're going to do that when we go to Canada.
Let's go. Wrap up though. I'll make the reservations now for you guys. I'll send you to the local sugar shack in my area. We're going to do like an Oprah moment here. Everybody in the audience gets a bottle of maple syrup. On no. I wish I could.
You get a bottle. You get a bottle.
Love it. You want to go to the next question, Jenny?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. You're probably just imagining that maple syrup.
Yeah. Maple syrup does that. It does that. It does that.
I wanted to see if you could tell us what are you passionate about outside of the music, cooking, and Web3.
Again, very, very good question. Like, again, my whole story, those things ebb and flow. Those things change from I guess, year to year usually. Maybe sometimes I get a little bit more of a season. But recently, for the last 2 years, I'd say, and Giancarlo knows this because we're in a couple of groups together, running has become a big outlet for me for just the same thing as meditation, just, escaping the noise of life, all the busyness, and just getting out there by yourself, moving, having fun. And it's like being a kid again, just like running is something we, most of us can do. And it's something you can always find somewhere to grow in. So I've been doing a lot of that. Actually got a marathon coming up, knock wood. Hopefully I do pretty well and I'll report back. But yeah, long distance running is definitely something I've been pretty passionate about for a while. And then outside of that, I could probably list some mundane things, but I think more high priority is, friends, family. I don't have a ton of both of those things, but the small circles that I do have, I try and make sure I keep up on those and, connect with IRL community as well. And, who knows, maybe weave in some of the activities that I'm passionate about with those people and, double whammy, get two birds stoned at once, as they say. But yeah, I'm just going to go with running because it has been kind of consuming, especially, through the summer months, getting outside, getting that sun and really just challenging myself. So running it up.
I love that, man. I'm glad we got to do some running together at VCon too, at that event that Sung put together. one of the days there. And I think it's, man, you've been doing a lot of running. I was impressed. I remember that one time you shared that you went and just did like a half marathon, like by yourself. You're just like, yep, just went out there and did it, just crushed it. I was like, wow, this dude's no joke.
Well, I thought I was a joke. It's like a lot of stuff in life. You never know what your potential is. Like, especially with something new, you're like, man, I'm terrible at this. And then lo and behold, if you just stick with it, even somebody that probably was actually inherently pretty terrible, you can get pretty good. And I know I'd shared this goal in some spaces and publicly just early on that I wanted to run 1,000 kilometers this year. Again, Canadian, sorry for all the Americans that move in miles. And I already did that. I've already surpassed that at this point in the year, yet to do a couple more marathons. So the goal has been adjusted to honor my American constituents and friends. It has changed to now 1,000 miles, which is 1,600 kilometers. So I got a little bit of work left, but it's always interesting. You set a kind of a lead goal. If you know the lead lag system, you think there's no way I can hit this. This is impossible for where I'm at in this particular endeavor or skill set. And then if you just stick with it consistently, you break it down. What do I need to do every day, every week, every month to actually like hit this? I was surprised. I was truly surprised that I hit it. And now I'm like, I had to adjust to make that the lag goal and make a new lead goal that was even more of a large number. So just some motivational, inspiration for people. Just always put a little bit more on the board than you think you can do. Just always like 10 more than you think you're capable of, and you'll squeeze them out every time. And if you keep doing that all over life, it'll really compound for you. Something I just recently learned in 2023.
It's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, huge congrats, brother. That's awesome.
Thanks.
And that's super motivating and so true. I mean, it's really good advice. I think that you just sticking with it, and and like you said, just adding that little bit better, a little bit of improvement each time, and it compounds for sure. It makes all the difference for sure. Love that.
Absolutely. And there's so much community in it, as we found, even with that IRL event, some of these side chats. You just find people that are in the same groove as you, and you grow with them.
Yeah, and that's a big alpha there too, because I think it makes a big difference having like people also try that have kind of similar aspirations, goals, and building some community around that, some and mutually like supporting each other, keeping yourselves accountable. I was doing in some of those chats just because I knew, like, I was like, oh, I gotta share in the group or whatever. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go get that run, I'm gonna make sure I do it. And it really is a great way to really keep you accountable and staying consistent, because it can be hard sometimes. Like there's times where you just don't feel it. You don't want to get up. You don't want to move. You don't want to go do that run. You don't want to do that workout. And you may just keep, prolonging it or whatever. But it's, just trying to stay consistent and pushing through those days where it just feels hard and tough and you're sore. You don't want to do it. And being able to stay consistent when you're feeling that way is the key, man, for sure. So yeah, definitely congrats, man.
Appreciate you. And those, you're right. Accountability groups are crucial. And if you want in for running specifically, just hit me or Giancarlo. I'm sure we got room still. And it's really just people sharing their runs for the day. Nothing, no competition. And if there is, it's all healthy and usually self-imposed, which is partially the point, as we talked about.
Yep. All right. So the next question is something we usually ask, most people. I'm a big movie buff, so I like to ask the guests to say what are their top 3 favorite movies of all time. And I have a feeling I might know one of them, but I'm curious to see what you're going to answer. Oh wait, you're on mute, Dan. You're on mute.
I feel like at this point I like have to stick with my like story, even though like my top 3, I'm telling you, in anything, my top 3 in anything. Every day you could ask me, it would probably be different, just depending on the shade of the day. There's some probably some consistencies, but it may wane. There's just so much good stuff out there. It's I don't know how people are so steadfast committed to certain choices, especially when we're only limiting to 3. But to stick with the congruency of my story, I'm going to go with Peter Pan, which is a big one. It is a big one. Maybe not in terms of just like the actual movie itself, but the significance it holds to me, I think is big for that. The second, and I'm going to have to say it's a full series, and I mentioned it already, Back to the Future. And the reason being, because that was when I was like, you know, coming up, I want to say like 8, 9, hanging with friends, doing movie nights back when cell phones didn't even exist. Okay. Crazy times, at least smartphones. And you would actually just like hang out and like have a movie night. And I'm sure people still do, but it was like the thing to look, the pinnacle. And I remember when that movie came out, it was like pico top of those times. So again, significance. And then number 3, I'm going to go curveball. And again, it's how I'm feeling today. I'm feeling a little zesty. To number 3, I'm going to go Mad Max, the newer one.
Good one.
Very oddball choice. I think a lot of people would be surprised by that one. But personally, great flick. I think very creative, interesting, keeps you on the edge of your seat. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there. If GT or Danny Phantom hear this recording back, if they're in here on burner accounts, I know I'm not going to hear the end of this. We do a fun segment that's similar to this with multi-arrays of topics. And almost every time I do a top 5, I am chastised heavily.
Really? You know, and what's funny, I was wondering if you were also, oh, sorry, Jenny, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Have you seen the movie Hook, which is like the different version of Peter Pan, was with Robin Williams?
Yeah, see that? And I always say that wrong. I always basically say Peter Pan, but it is Hook. Like that's the movie I'm referring to. And because the other ones would be the cartoon versions and not knocking the cartoons. That's the OG. But Robin Williams is the GOAT, dude. So
awesome.
I appreciate that clarification, Jenny, because it is Hook, not Peter Pan. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We got the record straight.
I love that movie too. So yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
It's the best.
It's a classic. And yeah, I'm also was a huge fan of Robin Williams as well. You know, so he's been in some of my favorite movies and like just, you know, serious movies like Good Will Hunting, but then funny movies like Mrs. Doubtfire. You know, just man, he was just awesome. And yeah, Hook was a great one.
Absolutely. And like right there in that single breath, Giancarlo, like that could be a top 3. Like you literally just said there. That's why top 3 is for me, top 5, top 10. It's too difficult. It's impossible. Yeah.
I was also curious if you were a big fan of Fight Club as well, because you named your collection, and maybe this was maybe at that time it was one of your favorite, but you had named that your collection. The NFT collection where people can get the custom song Space Monkey Fight Club. So I'm like, was he also a big fan of that one? But
100%, dude, you hit the nail on the head. And it was more the book for that one.
Oh, the book.
The movie's great.
Yeah.
The movie's obviously like legendary. Brad Pitt. I forget Nolan. Whatever.
Yeah. Now I'm also trying to play. No. Christopher Nolan is the director. Edward Norton.
Yeah, Edward Norton, it is. Yeah. Bingo, bango. And again, great film, but like a lot of things, it was inspired by a book, right? So if you rewind and go to the source, the source of the well, I think you really get to the ethos. And I think that's something that's a theme with me, is like really the core of something, or what I feel is the core, in my opinion, and really like getting right down to the bottom of that. And yeah, it's interesting. I've done that with so many different things, just kind of what I think it represents and then painting it with that brush.
Love it. So I was gonna ask if anybody's in the in the audience wants to come up to speak. Feel free to request. Would love to chat with you, see how you guys are doing. I know this has been a little bit of a difficult time for some people, so I know we didn't get some of our regulars in here today because of the time. Well, I see GT is down there. GT, if you're available and want to come up, would love to hear from you as well, brother. It's been a while since I chatted with you. And yeah, so yes, if anybody wants to request one, please go ahead and do that now. Other thing I want to ask you then too is, tell us about maybe any upcoming projects, goals that you have for your music, streetwear, or Web3 career. Maybe something you want to let us know about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just generally, if anybody's looking for custom audio, or anybody that is, obviously I'm the guy. I'm hard pressed to find anybody else that even offers that service. So I think I am like the guy. I hate to big up myself, but I'm pretty sure I'm the guy. So hit me up. Definitely willing to work with different scenarios and for all different use cases. Doesn't have to be just for an NFT project, spaces, podcasts. I've even done songs just for individuals, like about their own personal brand. Maybe there's a Gentle Tornado song coming soon, just about him and how awesome he is. Could
be,
do it,
right? Could be, yeah, I think so.
Very well could be. But that's the main squeeze. And then obviously Saturday morning cartoons is a space we do every single weekend, Saturday mornings, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard. If you want to come, get some good vibes, gratitude, pull up there. And then Growing in Public Tuesdays is the other spaces that I'm doing with GT actually as well. And that's Tuesdays, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And similar vibe, just trying to like actually connect on a human level, share habits and positive things and even some struggles and just kind of build together through that. And as far as like projects, the direction, I'm actually in a little bit of like a pivot point right now. I'm still doing the custom songs and everything, but really looking for what's next for me. And like I said, I'm always going to be lost, dude. It's just to what level. So finding the right groove. And I think if you're willing to follow along on the X page here at Dan the Lost Boy and stay up to date, as me and GT have talked about on the back end, I think we got some fun content coming. Jenny asked about Cook. There's so many different avenues, but in the next little bit, I think I'm really going to start sinking my teeth into something, and hopefully you guys are following along to enjoy it with me, because that's what it's about. It's not just about the one-way street. It's about two-way, really connected and enjoy it.
Definitely, man. And I'm also a big fan of cooking too, man. So, we're talking about like collaborations and stuff like that. I'd love to do some content around that too, man. So
dude, let's go,
let's
dude.
do
And
it.
that's the one thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm my recipe list is only so long, like I'm not actually like a chef. So like, by the time we start getting down to ramen and wieners and beans, like I got a problem, like that's not top quality content for the people. So I might need to get some other people's opinions in, maybe some different cultures and ethnicities as far as dishes go. Teach me the ways. I can handle spice very well. So heads up. But yeah, JC, we definitely got to do a little cook and throwdown.
Yeah. Speaking of spice, I actually did, I don't know if people have watched the show Hot Ones, but I did we did the challenge about last month with some buddies of mine, where you go through like the 10 hot sauces that they do on the show, man. And I held my own, but man, you get to like the bomb and one of the ones at the end is, man, that stuff is serious. But I like my spice too, man. So
good, dude. That's commendable. And honestly, it's just like a lot of things. If it was one and done, it might be a different story, but you got to go through 10 or like 9
and it builds up. It builds up.
That's exactly. Yeah. There's like the snowball effect.
Yeah.
Like, we should have done this the other way, dude. We should have gone from 10 to 1. Like what
go
are we
downhill,
doing
right? Instead of like uphill.
Yeah. I don't know, dude, but commendable for sure.
So I see we got GT up in the stage. How you doing, brother? Happy Friday.
Good. We're riding. Listen, yeah, Dan, if you made a GT song, I probably would have made it at that point. So don't do that for a little bit, because I don't know what I'm going to be like after that song's produced. I think definitely a Hype Foundation song's coming soon. I told Dan, but that's definitely happening. So that's going to be sick. Yeah, Dan's the man. Like, that's just the bottom line. Dan's the guy with the best music in the space. He makes the best custom theme songs I've ever heard. And I'm on a mission to get Dan viral. So I don't know how long that's going to take, but I know that Dan needs to be viral, and he needs to be viral on TikTok or Instagram. So it's coming soon. I'm just going to keep pushing. And yeah, we're riding, dude. JC, absolutely love you. We can't stop. We're just freaking grateful. We're just absolutely out here. I don't know what else to say. Just we're riding.
Dude, massive ride session. This guy even pulls up when he's not even. He's about 87.79% health right now, from what I like. The HP meter was suffering this week, and the guy still pulled up to show love. So appreciate that, GT.
Yeah, and GT, by the way, you've been on an awesome like weight loss journey as well. I saw you shared that recently, man. Inspirational as hell, man.
Dude, really appreciate that. We're grinding. We're out here grinding, bro. I gotta be that influence for the people around me, and that's just how I feel in general. You can't, JC, you're just absolutely shredded. So I don't know. Here's a little alpha that I got this morning. I gotta bless the space with typing into ChatGPT what you have in your fridge, what you have in your pantry to make a recipe for you. I have to go because someone just called me, but that actually blew my mind. And so I got to go. I love you guys. We're riding. Can't stop, won't stop.
Love you too, brother. Take care.
Bye.
Appreciate you, bro. And honestly, I think we just found the solution to our cooking content
Yeah.
There you go.
qualm. Cooking content qualm.
Dude, think
Where
about
was that on the
look at this
freestyle,
idea.
dude?
I just thought of something, right? Like you put like, all right, these are the recipes we have. We're about to do a cooking show. You know, just ChatGPT spit me out the recipe we're gonna make. You know, and then boom, you just go
Dude,
for
banger.
it. Yeah.
Banger. I mean, there's really
ChatGPT.
no excuses. There's really no
Yeah.
excuses. And God, that's I think GT's point about honestly, let's just call a spade a spade. Everybody in this room has something. Everybody in the world has something they could probably put on blast and get, you know, whether they want it or not, get some positive attention for. So, you know, it's just a matter of time and putting yourself out there. Virality is literally just vulnerability. The most people that are going viral are just getting vulnerable and putting themselves out there, even if sometimes it's a bit cringe. That member is not real. Referring to the woman on the plane recently. Viral moments happen all the time, so you could be one too, folks. But just got to actually get out there. And there's no excuses. That was my point. ChatGPT does have to work for you now.
There you go. So I see we got Nikki up on the stage. How you doing? Happy Friday. Are you able to speak, Nikki? Maybe not. I see my buddy Gamblers down there as well. We got Eddie and Shay. How you guys doing? Dianella. I wonder what happened to Nikki.
You got some legends. in
Yeah,
there today.
man.
The X has been definitely ruggy on Spaces.
Maybe she can't
if you can
speak.
hear us, we want to chat, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, I don't think she can. Maybe she can talk at the moment, but that's all good. We're still riding. Oh, all right. I see Chaz, who just got back from LA. Hey, Chaz, how you doing? Happy Friday, brother.
Hey, Chaz.
What's up, fam?
Doing
What's
well,
going on?
man. Doing good, man. How you been? How was the trip back?
Oh, jeez. I'm fucking tired. I'm sorry to curse. I gotta admit, man, I've put more steps in LA than I think I have in the last year. I swear to God. I'm just exhausted, but not about me. Dan, how are you, brother?
So good. And honestly, dude, getting a lot of steps in, it's exhausting, but health meter just upticked a few notches. Just wanted to put that on record.
Hey, I want to ask you, Dan, what do you use for your production software?
I usually use a few different, and honestly, I sometimes do all of my engineering myself, and then other times go to a few studios to work with them. Usually, it's split between Pro Tools and Adobe software. Although I have dabbled with a few others, Pro Tools is like the go-to, and it's kind of the industry standard. So personally, I'm not as well versed in Pro Tools, DAW. So that's a little bit more when I do go to the friends' studios, and I have a few solutions for my at-home engineering.
Yeah, that's typically your universal, right? When you're going between studios, that's what we want to use. But what you said, Adobe? What are you using on Adobe? They have a new product out, don't they?
There's a few different ones, and again, I've used what's it called? Why can't I think of the name right now? Audition, is it?
That is it. Yes, it is Audition.
Yeah. See, I've used Audition, and again, like nothing's like a tried and true for me that it's like, oh, I have to be using this. Sometimes people are very stuck in their ways. I think if I had to choose just one, I would say Pro Tools, just because I know it's a language that almost every single person speaks. Just unfortunately, I need to learn to speak it a little bit better.
How long have you been recording, Dan? When did you start, roughly?
I've been like writing, rehearsing my own music for a long time, engineering myself last couple of years, but I've been recording music in studios for 10 plus years.
Oh, so so you wouldn't go back to like the cakewalk days. You're more modern.
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
as like analog, and I again I have some friends that are really like almost historians when it comes to like music production, and they're very interested in the roots of things. For me personally, I was always more of a songwriter performer, and for a lot of my what we'll call career, I leaned on again like engineers, studios, people within my local area that were more expert level. I let them be good at what they're good at, and I tried to be really expert level at what I was good at. And then in the last, again, I'd say 5 years to put it loose, I got a lot more interested in having my hands on those knobs and dials myself, just to understand it so I could be in the conversation. But also, you take a middleman out, it makes the whole process a little more streamlined.
Yeah, you're right. And plus the tools have gotten a lot easier. I started out in a studio as a 32 channel reel to reel. So we're going to age ourselves, makes Back to the Future look modern. But yeah, the tools now are like just so fucking amazing, man. You can do anything. I use Ableton most of the time. I do have Pro Tools as well, but I mean, Ableton, I can just pump out tracks left and right just for fun. And yes, it's a great tool. But it's nice to meet you, Dan. I'm looking forward to looking over your profile a bit today.
Appreciate you, Chaz. And anytime I hear Chaz, I immediately think of Wedding Crashers. And Chaz, you are the legend in that movie, and you're now the legend in this space. Absolutely, absolutely love it. And hey, who knows? Yeah, we can connect, check my page out, and from one musician to another. Thanks for the question, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Chaz. Appreciate you coming up. Hope you're settling back in home now that you're back from LA. I see now we also have Shay up here. Hey, Shay, how's it going? Happy Friday.
Oh, the crew, the fam. Happy Friday, everybody. How you doing?
Doing well, brother.
Good to
Doing
see you
well.
guys.
I'm glad you were able to make
Good to
it. I
see
know
you
you had that
guys.
meeting, so glad you were able to come in after.
Yeah, I'm in between meetings. I wanted to make sure I said hello to all you guys, and definitely said hello to Dan. I mean, I love to see people kind of crossing over and bringing the music side into Web3. You guys know that, I'm incredibly interested in that. Dan, when you get a chance, I just followed you. When you get a chance, let's check out each other's profiles. I've got something pinned on mine. It's basically showing kind of how I'm using my art collection and bringing that in to music. In a sense, my background is more, I'll date myself too. My background is more in the DJing, which I started with like Technique 1200s and vinyl before the digital stuff was even around. And then I ended up skipping right over MP3s, and obviously I have a full digital setup and still the turntables and all that. And I also mess around and make beats and stuff too. But I would say my true expertise on the DJ side. But I'm extremely interested in how we can kind of bring all of this together, kind of in a multimedia environment. So, and clearly you're kind of like working in that arena. So I'd love to like link up with you sometime and, exchange some ideas and check out more what you're doing. And it was really cool hearing your story, man. And, I just want to support anybody that's here and kind of good vibes and creating music and Web3. I love it.
Oh, man, thanks, Shay. I appreciate, obviously, the presence in the space today, taking the time to listen, but then also, coming up and asking a question. And not only asking a question, but a great one that benefits me as well. We should definitely connect after this and, stay in each other's circle, because there's a lot of people, and again, in the bowl that came in, music NFTs are the future, and a lot of those people have ceased to stick around, and they were all kind of doing the same thing, just like tokenizing a song, a single or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think you're right, Shay. There's a lot of more interesting things that can be done with the subject matter of music when paired with blockchain. So I definitely love to explore. And even if, nothing comes of it, I say this to every person I connect with, just to be able to get into contact with you, learn about your work, learn about what you're doing is a benefit and a value add regardless. So appreciate you taking the time, and I'll definitely be looking in. I gave you a follow back. That's going to go for a few people in here. I've just been multitasking, making sure I don't drop the ball on Giancarlo and Jenny, but definitely going to be hitting some folks back, and appreciate all the support.
No, I appreciate you. And I agree with your commentary too, because I think it's, I'm envisioning a world like I kind of in my pen thing, and that was just something I just recorded something quick on a space yesterday so people could see the concept. I'm not doing anything in that video. I'm just sitting there playing a song and playing the art. But I think blurring the lines between physical and digital and really creating a use for all of this art, whether it be the animated or the static art. And if you think about people in essence performing and putting the music on top of that, and the art is always changing, it becomes a lot more interesting, and you can tell a story that way. And I think you're exactly right. Like, even if you have like this killer song and this killer art and you tokenize it, it's not really a use case for that right now. So that is, we're thinking along the same lines. So I love it, brother, and it's nice to have the connection. Appreciate you.
Heck yes. And the last thing I'll say on the subject, and I think there's some people that have tried it, but nobody's done it successfully. And I think partially because it's just such a competitive realm is, as you said, even if you have NFTs, music NFTs in your wallet, I don't know many people that pull up OpenSea to listen to tunes, man. Like, it's just unfortunate that is the case, but I just don't know many people that are like, hey guys, I'm at a party, we're all having a few hey, give me the aux cord, I'm gonna pull up my NFT that I bought, and you're on OpenSea trying to get it to use the very basic player that it enables on a token. I think when those two worlds start to overlap a little bit more, and I think they will very soon, unfortunately for artists, I'm sure Spotify will be a big brother, big player in that game. But once we see a little more overlap, and it makes a lot more sense for an artist's tokens to be integratable with current platforms and playback providers, all of a sudden the game changes. But until then, Shay, 100% agree. And even after then, I think there's still a massive market for what we're discussing, and just a little bit more of a high effort, high level multimedia art experience that, I like you say, blurs the lines between picking up what you're putting down. And it seems like there's so many great people that have really, not that they weren't around, but they've surfaced, for me at least, on my account, my algorithm, whatever you want to call it, through the bear market. So I really am appreciative of the current timeline we're in, because, you know, people like Shay, you know, all these great folks in here, Chaz, and other folks that are just listening. That's how you bump shoulders with good people, is just being around when everybody else isn't, because they're just only in it for the financial opportunist. I'm an opportunist, don't get me wrong, but I'm an opportunist of all kinds, even if it's just relationships.
Legend.
Love it. I see Chaz got his hand up. Hey, what's up, brother?
Yeah, you know, actually, I'm just thinking about what you just said there, Dan and Shay. Dude, I mean, just thinking about the opportunity to be able to mint, not only people can buy an edition of your song as like just a, you know, as a collector, right? You pay $1 or whatever to get the song, but as a, you know, licensing and for broadcast purposes, to be able to have a separate mint for, you know, broadcast rights, so you can get different, you can receive different royalties or different percentages based off of the NFT use. You just opened my mind to like a whole different market of music, and I just think it's a brilliant idea. But you're right, dude. Who's gonna open up your freaking OpenSea wallet to go listen to music? That is a challenge, right? So now we just need NFT players, right? Like the old MP3 players. It's the NFT players. Fucking dope, man. I love this conversation.
Yeah, that's some cool ideas. Jenny, you had your hand up?
Yeah, you know, I was just thinking of something that I experienced in the last like 24 hours. It's kind of related, kind of not, but I got an email from NFT NYC saying that because I spoke, they wanted to send me like this little certificate, almost like a diploma, and it was a link in the email. And when I pushed it, it took that information and put it in my LinkedIn. And I was like, dude, that's pretty wild. So like now my head's going, what you guys are talking about, like if that happens, you buy the token, you push that token, it takes you to some kind of a website or an NFT player like you guys are describing, and it even has potentially that cover art associated with it. There's so much, like I know we hate, like it's such a cliche word, like we're early, but actually like conversations like this like make me really realize how super early we are in this whole thing.
Absolutely. And like we were talking about earlier, Jenny, even prompted from some of yours and Giancarlo's great questions, is just like, that's what I'm talking about. When people start looking through the lens way deeper than just Not that there isn't always a market for collectibles and for people to just consume and purchase art, but when all of these worlds start to like overlap and they integrate and people are thinking a much larger scale, how I can give somebody a really, really unique user experience if they're a fan of mine and my artwork, that's going to be crazy. And to your point, if you could buy a token and then, like you say, follow a link or some input a certain special key that is only available, unlockable through, that token. And then, somehow it's integrated into Spotify where you now have a different experience available to you that's gated through the token on a platform you already use on a day-to-day. That becomes a very interesting, chasm to enter where you're like, man, that really changed the game. That's like buying like a limited edition, like LP, but now I can keep it in my pocket digitally on Spot. I don't even need to have it on my phone. I just load it up and then it's there.
Yeah,
and I
it's
can
like
have
linked
it
to
in
your
my playlist.
Spotify playlist and it's already been authenticated and boom. Yeah, that's a dope idea for sure, man.
Crazy. And again, eventually there's going to be enough people like we've talked about earlier in the space that stop honoring and really caring as much about the hype cycles of just like PFP project. I love them. Don't get me wrong. I love PFPs and I think they'll always have a place. But when that's, I think, a little bit less of the focus and like more of it is on, again, even some of that like day-to-day user stuff, like how can I like benefit my actual life? Like when I'm at the gym and like doing my thing and I want to, have this artwork with me, it's usually not very applicable. This might start to change things. So I think everybody's just got to start thinking bigger, but also like voting with their dollars in a different way too. So it's on the consumer and the producer side.
Yeah, 100%. So I see Nikki has her hand up. Are you able to speak now, Nikki?
Hey, yes, I am.
Happy Friday. I'm glad you were able to join us. How you doing?
Yay, happy Friday. I'm doing good. I apologize for earlier. I was having some technical difficulties and then I was trying to get away from my desk. I wanted to comment. First of all, thank you, Giancarlo. Hey, Jennifer, Chad, Luco, Shay, Cam, the whole fam here, Carlos. I wanted to comment on what you're doing, Dan, with the music. I think that's just so innovative because I have started adding music to my NFTs, and it just becomes so much more interesting to see. Not only you have a visual, but you have an audio too, and so I'm just really, really amazed at it. And then also you're saying that you're in Canada, and I'm not too far from that. I'm in Michigan, and so downtown Detroit is like 25 minutes away from me. So it's like, that's the benefit right there. He's not far. And I think we should continue on with adding music to our NFTs. It's just a really cool thing. So congratulations. And I see what you're doing is awesome and it's good. I'm so glad that I joined the space to hear your journey.
Wow, I'm super glad you got your technical difficulties figured out, Nikki. I really appreciate that that feedback and even the personal experience that you've had with integrating music with your tokens and artwork already. It's great that people are seeing the value, and I appreciate you being here and carving out some time not only just to listen, but come up on stage, get away from the desk, get the tech figured out, just to speak to me. And you're absolutely right. Michigan is literally like in my backyard. I'm in London, so Sarnia is right at the bridge, and bingo bango, Bob's your uncle, as they say. I'm right near you, so we should definitely stay connected. And again, I appreciate people recognizing the opportunities that lie within custom audio from all different levels. I've had people high up in big projects like a Luca Nets order songs and recognize how powerful audio IP is. And I've had people on the ground level of things just starting an endeavor that recognize it as well. So really appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, Nikki, thanks so much for coming up. And yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I think, man, maybe Dan, that's another thing you can look into as well as you're, on your journey to discover, between, content and doing other things is, partnering up even with like artists and being like, hey, can I do something for you to, incorporate into your artwork and, stuff like that. And I think that also that partnership with Shay, I'm glad Shay was here too, because Shay's doing a lot of really cool stuff as well. And he's very tapped into the art space, doing a lot of cool stuff in this space as well. So I think, yeah, it's also a really cool, connection point there as well.
Absolutely. And it's just great. Again, people are starting to get a little bit more creative in their approach. And, I've had people do it in past, and people I think are going to start doing it a lot more in future. Projects wanting to offer things that aren't like something that's going to deteriorate their floor price. They want to have, airdrops and things that are fun and utility, and just like little value adds, little fun little things to spice up the community. And I think that's a cool, interesting way. Get yourself a theme song, a custom, make a tokenize it, and then drop it to all your holders. Like, even if there is a small resale, more benefit to whoever made you the song, if you're sharing that, but it's not going to take away from the actual OG asset. It's just like a fun little, prize almost, or a little like value add. So I think people are starting to kind of come around and recognize all the cool little opportunities. And, Shay, Chaz, other artists in the space, I think as we keep recognizing that other people are recognizing, there's just going to be more growth.
Yeah, 100%. So I don't see any other, I think we had some other speakers, but they dropped off. If anybody else wants to come up, feel free to request. We'd love to have you guys on. Yeah, I think there was a couple people that maybe they had to go, who knows. But if you want to request, feel free to do so. We'd love to have you up here. And yeah, man, Dan, it's been a real pleasure, man. Just getting to talk with you, getting to know a little bit more about your story, the background behind the Lost Boy name, and learning a little bit more about your passions and other things like that, man. So it's been really cool having you, man. And now you can say when you go out in London, Canada, you're a celebrity.
It's true. I think the biggest aha moment that was really interesting for me was being a guest on the show that I made the theme song for. So it's like describing, interesting guests, and I'm like, wait, today that's me. But no, I really do appreciate the time, the thoughtful questions. I know I'd heard some feedback from a prior guest, and I kind of want to echo that. Just like great questions. You guys clearly did your research. You didn't just like pull up my Twitter feed and read the last 3 tweets and just run off of that. Did a little bit of history work, going deep into the archives and pulling out some fun subject matter. And not only that, some great questions to kind of pair with it. So really appreciate the time having me on. And again, such thoughtful questions. So thank both of you.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, definitely our pleasure, man. We like to do it right, really getting to, doing some research, and it always just makes the experience much better, when you really take some time to really understand more about the person and stuff that they've done before. So yeah, it's definitely makes the whole process better. But yeah, so any case, man, yeah, thank you so much for being here today, Dan. Wishing you the best of luck with all the other stuff you got going on with the running. Keep me posted on the marathon. I know we'll be checking out on the DM chat group we got there for that as well. And yeah, man, it's been really awesome having you. And thanks to everybody that was also here in the space today. Those of you that came up to speak, thank you, Shay, Chaz, Nikki, just for coming up and asking questions and talking with us today, man. Appreciate all of you.
Yeah, just right quick before you shut her down. I'd love to echo that. Appreciate it. Appreciate anybody that's showing up. Honestly, I know most folks are probably here for Jenny and Giancarlo because they're absolute legends, great hosts, and this is a reoccurring, amazing space. But anybody that's here listening to me, appreciate you. I see some gems, some great friends, and looking forward to seeing everybody on the timeline, Discord, sidebars, wherever we're hanging out and crossing paths, whether it digitally or IRL. Really appreciate the time and the attention. Honestly, it means a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks everyone. And yeah, Dan, definitely hit me up also about the cooking thing, man. Maybe we gotta start some content on that. Get it going. Let's go. All right, everybody. Have a great Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all for being here. Much love to you all. Take care.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?